Okay, we're talking about life in the Khalij or life in the Gulf area. And the last segment that we had, we were talking about things that you should ask when you are in an interview. One of the things that you want to make sure you talk about is the indemnity. In many of the Gulf countries, you are not allowed. The foreign citizens are not allowed to work and then retire and draw a retirement check or pension or like this, like it is in the States. This is something that is reserved for the local people. So what happens with you, with us, is that when you complete your term for service, then you are given a what we call indemnity, your indemnity bonus. Basically, it runs in most cases like this: for every year that you work, you receive a half a month's pay for the first 3 years. So you receive a half a month for each year you work for the first 3 years, and then after 5 years you receive a full month's pay. So, example, if you were making 1,000 dinar a month, and say you worked the contract for 2 years, then for each year that you worked in the contract, you will receive a half a month of your base salary. So you will receive 500 and another 500. If you stayed with the company for 5 years, now it depends on the company itself. Some companies will give you it goes to 1 month for each year from 5 years and on. So some companies may give you 1 month starting from the first year because you were there for the entire 5 years. And some companies may do or pay a half a month for the first 3 years, and then your last 2 years are paid at a full month. You have to ask this question, and don't feel like you're being petty or you're asking for the money right off, and the employer is going to think I'm only concerned about money. You have to ask this question before you sign the contract, because you don't know the law. They know the law. They know the law, and you don't know the law, so you have to ask. Okay? And then you have to ask, how is it paid? Because some employers will wait until you finish the entire contract. So you were there for, say, 4 years, you'll get all of your indemnity at the end of the 4. And then some companies will pay the indemnity at the end of every year. So it depends on the company. You have to ask. Okay? You should ask about medical insurance. Okay? There are different types of medical insurance. There is medical insurance that is provided by the state or by the government, and in many cases it's either free or it's a very little cost. It might cost you 50 dinar, or might cost you 30 dinar, or it may be something very small, but you'll pay that one time and then that's it. And then after that you have local clinics that you'll go to. So when you go to the clinic, you pay 1 dinar and that covers all of your medication. So the medication is basically free. It's 6 in one hand and half a dozen on the other hand. You can say that the doctor's visit was 1 dinar and the medication was free, or that the doctor's visit was free and the medication costs a dinar. Either way, it's 1 dinar, no matter what kind of medication that you need. Okay. Once you pay the dinar and you have your ID card or your insurance card, you pay the one dinar. You'll get seen by the doctor, and if there's medication to be prescribed, you just simply take the prescription over and get the medication filled. Many of the medications that we have in the states that require a prescription, excuse me, are available over the counter in a lot of the pharmacies in the Middle East. So, for example, if you need anything from the penicillin family, amoxicillin, doxycycline, anything like that, even up to 800 milligram of Motrin, what we call Motrin, the ibuprofen, they call it Brufen here. If you need the 800 milligram strength of that or the 600 milligram strength of that, you can get that without a prescription, but you'll pay whatever the cost is for the prescription, so that's not free. So, for example, for an 800 milligram pack of tablets for Brufen, ibuprofen, maybe you'll pay 2.5, 3.5 dinar, like this. But if you go to the clinic, you'll have to sit and wait. That's the only drawback. You'll have to sit, you'll have to wait, for you to be called and be seen and get the medication and that. But it's still free. Okay. The other type of insurance they have here is private insurance. Now, going back to the first point, the insurance that you'll pay that comes from the government, it does not include the private sector. So there are privately run clinics. This does not include the money for the private clinic. So if you go to a private clinic, you will pay whatever the rates is that they charge. If you go to any government-owned clinic, it's always 1 dinar. Always 1 dinar. And then that's it. In the private clinic, you're going to pay for the service, plus you're going to pay for the prescription. Then there is the insurance that is, where they compensate you for what you spend. So you'll have your government insurance, and then you are, in some cases, in some school, they will allow you, say, 100 dinar as a medical expense, medical reimbursement. That's what it is. So if you spend any money on medication, you go and you get the receipt from that particular purchase, you turn it into the school, and then the school turns it back over to you. Okay, I personally don't like that, because you may have extenuating circumstances where you've exhausted that 100 dinar, and now you're paying out of your pocket. The other thing, the reason I don't like that is because you don't know the reimbursement schedule of the school. Will he reimburse it to me immediately from the petty cash if they keep any on hand, or do I have to wait till the end of the month, or do I have to wait till the end of the year? If I paid the money now, I want the money back now. Because I paid it now, I want it back now. I have other things to do with that money: bread, milk, butter, cereal, sugar, children. I have a family to take care of. I need my 3K, I need my 3 dinar now, not at the end of the month. Okay, so it just depends. You have to ask how that is. These are questions that people get shy to ask because they don't want to give the employer the impression that they're only concerned about money. But that's what the employer is concerned about. That's why he's interviewing you. Any employer worth his weight in salt, he is or she is concerned with how can you benefit me and how can you not be a liability to me. Okay, but from our angle, we have to say, okay, I don't want this job to be a burden on me. I don't want to be in a situation where I'm unhappy to be here. So you have to ask these questions. You must ask these questions. Find out what the rule is as far as the policies and procedures of a company that you're going to work for. Is there an employee handbook? If this company is worth anything at all, if they're worth their weight in salt in any shape or form or fashion, there's going to be some kind of employee handbook. You don't want to be in a place where you don't know you broke the rule until you break it. And then they tell you, did you know you weren't supposed to do that? No, I didn't know. Yeah, well, you weren't supposed to do that. So now the penalty is going to be X, Y, and Z. You don't want that. So if they don't provide a handbook, then really you should draft, before you go to these companies, you should draft yourself a set of questions to ask. And this really, it gets your respect, and it makes them say, wait a minute, okay, I'm not dealing with, Joe Airhead here or Jane Airhead here. This guy or this woman has come prepared. So now let me, sit up a little straighter now and take this person a little bit more seriously. Ask about the airfare. In some cases, the round trip ticket is provided. And in some cases, if you decide you're not going to go home that year, in some cases, the employer will give you the cost of the ticket in the form of money, which is really good. But you have to find out what that particular employer does. That's not mandatory. They don't have to do it. The law says they have to give you a ticket, and many of them, they stick to the letter of the law and they give you a ticket. But some of them, they will say, listen, we can save some money. If the ticket costs 400 dinar for you to go back, I'll give him 90% of the cost of the ticket, keep the other 10% as a profit. Anything you don't spend is a profit, or at least it's something it's money that's safe. Okay, so he may give you 360 dinar. Doesn't matter to you either way, because you got money for it. So that's in addition to your summer pay. We'll talk about summer pay on the next clip. But find out what their policy is and when you receive it. Because if you are going to go home, you also need to make sure that they make travel arrangements for you ahead of time, so that you're not stuck at the airport, or that your itinerary isn't jumbled and you wind up being in a bad circumstance. And I've seen some cases of that. So on the next clip, we will talk about the airfare. or and the monies for the airfare.